All right, Big Blue Nation, welcome back to the Cat Scratch Podcast powered by CLNS Media. My name is Alex Frank, covering the Kentucky Wildcats for CLNS Media. It is Tuesday, February 18th, 2025. As we record this, maybe February 19th, as you listen to a game day for the Wildcats Wednesday night as the Cats take on the Vanderbilt Commodores at Rupp Arena tomorrow night, 7 o'clock on the SEC Network and the UK Sports Network. I will be there for it. I will be in attendance tomorrow night in Lexington, Kentucky, as the Wildcats look to get back over 500 in the SEC, improve to 7-6 in the SEC, and improve to 18-8 on the season as they look to solidify their chances at being the number three seed in the NCAA tournament. And that's where I think Kentucky needs to be. If you're a 3 seed, chances are you're not going to be in an unfavorable location, right? I say that because Joe Lunardi last week at Kentucky is a 4 seed playing in Seattle. Now, Seattle's a great city. I have family that lives out there. Seattle's awesome. But the distance wise, it's a long way away. So having a the opportunity to go to, let's say, a Providence or a Raleigh or a Cleveland, Milwaukee, even Wichita, like that would be much better for the Wildcats. Anyway, let's get to the obviously the big headline for this show and recently for Kentucky, and that is the 82-78 loss that the Wildcats sustained Saturday night at Austin, Texas against the Longhorns. A game in which Kentucky really played well the first 36 minutes and 24 seconds. Unfortunately, they didn't play as well the last 336. And gosh, it's just one of those games where, you know, you go to bed as a fan, you go to bed cranky, you wake up the next morning, and I'm going to pause before I get into the game and extend my absolute sincerest thoughts and prayers to everyone affected by the flooding and the snow in Kentucky this week. I looked earlier today that 14 people had now been accounted for that had sadly and tragically lost their lives in these horrific floods and snow. So, just an absolutely devastating week for the Commonwealth. And there's going to be a donation drive tomorrow before the game at Rupp Arena, which, uh, you know, Mark Pope said it best earlier this week. Kentuckians come together. This is a state and a community that works together. And I I'm still new to Big Blue Nation, right? And there's a lot of established people that are a part of it, some of whom I work with, and some of whom I admire. I admire every single member of the University of Kentucky men's basketball and football beat. They are tremendous, not just journalists and talk show hosts and writers, etc. They're great people. And they are great people. I admire every single one of them. And one of the things that I have come to realize is this is a community that works together. We help each other out. And that's what I love about this fan base, this beat, this state that is Kentucky. Um so anyway, you wake up Sunday and if you're not in the southern part of Kentucky or where the floods and the snow were, you woke up to white on the ground, cold. You want to stay in your house all day and turn on the fireplace and watch reruns of The Middle, which I did. Hilarious show, by the way. Um, that's what this loss did. It wasn't that it was a bad loss. Texas is a solid team. We knew that going in. I tell you, Trey Johnson, he's the real deal. He is the real deal. 30 points, or no, 32 points on Saturday night. He was tremendous. Tremont Mark 26 points. I mean, what Texas was able to do? Get shots off, crash the boards, force turnovers late. They hit their free throws. They hit some tough shots. I think this is just a game where two things. One, you're just upset at the way it ended. Kentucky just completely fell apart in the last 336. But it wasn't one of those. It wasn't one of those that was. It was a slow, gradual ripping off the band-aid. You're supposed to rip it fast. Well, it just happened like that. Kentucky's up 70-65, and the next thing you know, they're down 78-70. That's what this game was. Or actually it was 70-66, excuse me, but still you go into the final media timeout and you're saying, "Okay, like I tweeted that it was going to be a labor to the finish. It was going to be a laboring job." But I did not expect the Wildcats to just completely collapse. And look, if they were at full strength, we would probably be a little more upset and we would probably be a little more infuriated. But the tone that I want to portray on this show and the tone that I noticed from a lot of my colleagues on Twitter and a lot of fans was it just got away. The game just got away from them. And look, when you're down your three starting point guards and you're playing a Texas team that was playing for they were playing to stay on the right side of the bubble, and give them credit. They made shots down the stretch. They made plays on the defensive end. They made their free throws. I don't think, though, that final 336 could have gone any worse for Kentucky. Yes, they hit some threes. The game was over by that point. I'm talking about when the game completely flipped on its head. I don't think Kentucky could have played a worse final 336 of that game if it were to be played again. If Kentucky runs into Texas in the SEC tournament, let's say in a 7-10 matchup or a 6-11, if they run into Texas in the in the SEC tournament, first of all, Trey Johnson and Tremont Mark will show up, but I don't think Kentucky would play as bad of a 336 for two reasons. One, I just don't see it happening again. Two, you would have Jackson Robinson and Lamont Butler, hopefully both of them, if not for sure one of them, back by that point. Kentucky, the fact that they were in that game, after everything Texas threw at them in the first half, the second half, there was a part in the second half where Kentucky went like 4 minutes without making a shot, and somehow they were still within striking distance the whole time without their three starting point guards. Like, that was a valiant effort from Kentucky. And yes, it is a game they should have won. Not just could have won, should have won. If they do close out that game, we're sitting here today saying, hey, win this game tomorrow night, Wednesday night. You go into Alabama 8-5 in the SEC. I mean, it's not a game you have to win, but if you do win, we can start talking about this team getting a top 4 seed in the SEC tournament. Well, the focus now, I believe, is getting at least a first-round bye in the SEC tournament, which this team can still do. They're tied for 8th place right now as of Tuesday in the SEC. As long as they beat Vanderbilt and the other teams they're supposed to beat, Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, and LSU. That's 3 wins right there that get you to 9. Okay, and then you have 3 other games. Alabama, Auburn, and Missouri. Somewhere they can win at least one of those games that get you to 10-8. That should get you a bye. It should. Now, 11-7, I think, would be better, and that's why this is a disappointing loss on Saturday. You win that game, then you're saying, okay, we need to go 4-2 down the stretch. Well, now 4-2 only gets you to 10-8. Go 5-1, which I think this team can do. This team has beaten so many good teams this season. Great teams. They've beaten Tennessee twice. They've beaten Duke. They've beaten Florida. I mean, they've beaten the creme de la creme, essentially. Now, they still play Auburn and Alabama. If you steal one of those games, and I'm confident that they can go into Missouri and win. I am. Because Missouri, for as good as they are, they haven't completely, they haven't moved the needle. They're a team that's really fun to watch because they can shoot threes. And believe me, Caleb Grill is an unbelievable three-point shooter. He leads the SEC, I think, with like a 46.7 three-point field goal percentage. He's really good. But as a team, Missouri, aside from an impressive 20-plus point win in Mississippi State, and look, I mean, that's in the SEC, that's really good. You capitalize on one of those opportunities, those big opportunities, that's good. But they haven't really moved the needle for me yet. And I don't know if that's how a lot of others feel. I don't know how you all feel. Maybe you feel like they're really good and they're going to be a challenge for Kentucky. They will be. I'm agreeing with that sentiment. But again, or I haven't really stated this yet. Big picture, I'm not worried about this team. Will they have to play Wednesday at the SEC tournament? Maybe. That still means they could be a 3 seed in the NCAA tournament. If they win, let's say 2 or 3 games, if they play 2 Saturday, the semifinals, they're still in it. They're still in the running for a 3 seed. The fact that they're a 3 seed right now, according to the NCAA Selection Committee's bracket preview show that aired Saturday at 12:30 on CBS, the fact that they're a 3 seed and number 10 overall, like, that's pretty good considering who they don't have right now and considering their schedule is going to get tough. But Mark Pope did something interesting. And this happened during the Kentucky-Texas game. And I was not watching this game. I kind of wish I was. The USA-Canada hockey game, which Twitter was blowing up over. This is what we do when the NFL season ends. We blow up over 3 fights in 9 seconds in a hockey game. Well, Mark Pope showed his team that. And I think the message was about toughness. And I don't think that Mark Pope needs to mention anything to his team about playing with pride. Like, this is Kentucky. I think that message already has been conveyed to this roster. But the toughness to A, make the plays when it matters and handle adversity, and B, to what happened on Saturday is not going to happen again. Anyone listening to this, would you be shocked if Kentucky beat Vanderbilt on Wednesday night and then Alabama on Saturday night? I wouldn't. By the way, Dick Vitale calling the Kentucky-Alabama game Saturday. Love that. I don't think that any of us would be shocked. I'd be shocked if they win those 2 games and then lose to Oklahoma next Wednesday night. That would be shocking. But this team still has everything in front of them. Health, they have opportunities, they have their best basketball still ahead of them. Has it been frustrating? They haven't really been able to string together wins since winning against Tennessee twice? Yeah, it is. This is also the SEC, man. I mean, like, Kentucky, after they beat Florida, couldn't beat Georgia. Look, this happens. Like, this, I should say Missouri does have, speaking of Florida, Missouri does have a win over them. So, I guess they've moved the needle a little bit, just not completely. But this is the SEC, right? Kentucky is going to only benefit from Saturday's experience of just completely collapsing down the stretch. And also, they're going to benefit from playing in this SEC. I mean, the tournament, like, if they have to win 5 games in 5 days, here's the thing. Here's the thing. If you get rolling, you start winning some games, that's going to create momentum. And could that create fatigue going into the NCAA tournament? Yeah, it could. Hopefully then you wouldn't have to play until Friday of the first weekend. But this is what you sign up for. This is exactly what you sign up for. When you play for Kentucky, when you are the head coach at Kentucky, when you're a fan. Like, yes, Saturday night again was disappointing. It was a game that was there for the taking. Was it a game that Kentucky should have won? Yes. But then again, another thing that stands out to me is this. Every time Kentucky went up by 7 early in the first half and the second half, they never built on those leads. So part of what I think a key for tomorrow night against Vanderbilt Wednesday night is keep your foot on the gas. Kentucky did a great job of that against South Carolina. Started slow, but once they took the lead, they never let South Carolina back into the game. They kept building on it, eventually winning by 23. Against Tennessee twice, Kentucky, and look, Tennessee, they're gonna, get their shots. They're gonna keep themselves in the game, and they did. But Kentucky, like, there was never a point in either game late where you legitimately thought Kentucky was going to lose. Look at the game against A&M. Kentucky gradually built up a lead, won by 13. Like there are games where Kentucky has done that, but they need to do that, especially down the stretch consistently. Get out to a lead against Vanderbilt, like it happened against Vanderbilt, right? The last time Kentucky played Vanderbilt, it was a really good game. 4 ties, 17 lead changes. Kentucky was down 14 at the half. They stormed back to take a 58-51 lead. So that means they outscored Vanderbilt 37-13. Is that right? Down 14. No, I'm sorry, 31 to it was 31 to 10, excuse me. Clearly my University of Cincinnati math is not doing me well here. So Kentucky went up by 7 with like 8:39 to go. But they let Vanderbilt back into the game. I forget who it was that hit a 3. I think it might have been McLaughlin. Devin McLaughlin, who is Vanderbilt's leading rebounder. The Bearcats are going to, the Wildcats, are going to have to do a great job against him tomorrow night on the boards. Kentucky lets Vanderbilt hit a 3 to pull to within 4. And then in the final 2:56 of the game, they go over 2 from the floor with 3 turnovers. You turn the ball over more times than you get off shots. And Vanderbilt closes and wins 74-69. It was a disappointing loss. Kentucky hasn't been in the top 10 since then. They've had chances to get their way back into it. Instead, they have fallen to 12, to 14, to 15, and now 17. So, and by the way, they've gone from 3-1 in the SEC to 6-6. They're 3-5 in their last 8 games. You know what kind of reminds me of a little bit? It kind of reminds me of the Buffalo Bills. Aside from this season, in 21, 22, and 23, the Bills were really good early. They stumbled in the middle of the season, but then at the end of the season, they put it on. Right? In 21, they win their last 4 games to win the AFC East. 22, they win 7 straight games. 27 straight games. Did I say 27 straight games? Excuse me. 7 straight games. Man, I'm with it today. 2023, they win 5 straight games. They always stumbled in the middle part of the schedule. Maybe this Kentucky team kind of reminds you of those teams. It does for me. And tomorrow night, Wednesday night against Vanderbilt, the guy that I really want to see step up once again is Amari Williams. This guy has been unbelievable. I mean, aside from Otega Owe, who's this team's leading scorer, Amari Williams may be this Wildcats team's best player. You look at what he's able to do on the glass. Heck, he made a 3-pointer on Saturday night. He's a great rebounder. He's a really good passer, underrated passer, and he can score. So his ability on the boards to impose his will, especially against a guy like McLaughlin of Vanderbilt, is going to be an absolutely big key in tomorrow night's and Wednesday night's game for Kentucky. This is a game Kentucky, it's one of those games tomorrow night against Vanderbilt. Is one of those games where you can't overlook it. The last time Kentucky played Vanderbilt, maybe a lot of us overlooked it, and we're looking ahead to Tuesday night against Tennessee. We thought, oh gosh, top 10 matchup, Super Tuesday, ESPN. Well, they didn't take care of business against Vanderbilt. And when you don't do that, you run into problems. So now Kentucky needs to get this win to earn a split. It's not just the loss on Saturday against Texas that has this team, I think, kind of fighting uphill a little bit. It's other losses to Vanderbilt. It's losses to Georgia. It's losses to Arkansas. Regardless of what the SEC is. They beat South Carolina. They still haven't played LSU. But it's losses against teams that they should have beaten earlier this season, including Texas. I don't care if they're in the tournament. I don't care if they're a projected tournament team right now or not. Those are games you have to win, especially at home. The Arkansas game, there may be an asterisk by it because it was John Calipari's first game back. It was an emotional night, but still, that was a game you had to win. That was another game where Kentucky got a lead in the first half, and they didn't build on it. So keeping your foot on the gas. It's also rebounding. This Vanderbilt team's not a great rebounding team. And Kentucky should have the opportunity tomorrow night to impose their will on the glass. My other key to tomorrow night's game against Vanderbilt, make winning plays and winning time. It's something the Wildcats did not do on Saturday at Texas. Now then again, if the score is, let's say, 74-62 with 3:36 to play, still close out the game. Consistently closing out games. Making plays in crunch time and clutch situations. Say that 5 times fast. Kentucky's done that. Like, I've seen them do it against Duke. I've seen them do it against Gonzaga. I've seen them do it against, and you can say, regardless of if Gonzaga is good or not, which they are, I've seen them do it against Florida. I've seen them do it against Tennessee twice. I've seen him do it against Mississippi State in a game that was 95-91. This Kentucky team has the ability to close out games. Now is the time to recapture that identity. Now is the time to start consistently doing that for when you face Alabama on Saturday, or Auburn next Saturday, or Missouri, or when you get to the SEC tournament, you face who knows. I think Kentucky does win tomorrow, 80-69. Over Vanderbilt, get to 18-8, 7-6 in the SEC, and set the stage for what's going to be a fun Saturday night. Roy Philpott, Damian Fishback on the call tomorrow night at Rupp Arena, 7 o'clock on the SEC Network. UK Sports Network's coverage begins at 5:30. Matt Jones and Kentucky Sports Radio preceding it at 4:30. Tom Leach, Jack Goose Givens, Andrew Kappas, and the crew with the call of the game at 5:30. I'll be back later this week, either Thursday or Friday, to break down this game against Vanderbilt Wednesday night, and then look ahead to Saturday night's matchup against Alabama, 6 o'clock on ESPN. Carl Ravitch, Jimmy Dykes, and Dick Vitale with the call from Coleman Coliseum in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And, of course, the UK Sports Network's coverage gets underway at 4:30 with Tom Leach, Jack Goose Givens, and Andrew Kappas and the crew. Matt Jones, Kentucky Sports Radio, to precede them at 3:30 Eastern. So big week ahead for Kentucky. Happy to be here with you all. Again, please stay safe. And once again, please keep those in Southern Kentucky, wherever those who are affected in Pikeville and other areas by the flooding, the snow, please keep them in your thoughts and prayers. They desperately need our help. They desperately need just us to be there for them. And that's what we will do this week all across the Bluegrass State. Thank you for listening to the Cat Scratch Podcast, powered by CLNS Media. I'm Alex Frank. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great rest of your week. And I'll be back later this week, either Thursday or Friday, with another episode right here on the Cat Scratch Podcast, powered by CLNS Media.